Car con carne in quarantine. It's quarantine con carne. I'm James Van Osel, and before we begin, I do want to mention that Car con carne is sponsored tonight by Siren Records McHenry, now offering curbside pickup and online ordering. You can check out their new website, sirenrecordsmchenry.com. So if you're in a band, if you want a label, if you want to get your product in a store, you can message them on social media or just call the store. Siren Records McHenry, always looking to support local music, as am I. Car con carne also sponsored tonight by C&H Financial Services. As my tour de force of Chicago breweries continues, I'm stopping tonight at Haymarket Brewing, locally known at 737 West Randolph, haymarketbrewing.com. I have the director of fermentation, Pete Crowley, with us. I have the director of operations, Mike. Gemma?
Gemma.
And then Jay and Sam, who are collaborators on 83 Honey Pale Ale from Haymarket. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on a Friday night.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure.
I guess let's just start. Every brewery I talk to, I'm starting with the basic. I don't want to bury the lead. As life is slowly sliding back into something that resembles normal, where can they get Haymarket beer? Curbside at the Chicago location, liquor stores?
Always best at the source, right? You can always pop down and see us, and we got fresh beer for you here at 737 West Randolph in the West Loop. We're doing curbside pickup, to go, and delivery service as of right now. And hoping that you can enjoy our patio here come Tuesday next week.
What's that big tank behind you? What you got brewing in there?
Nothing as of yet, unfortunately. But I'm in the brew house right now. I didn't think it was hot enough outside, so warm up here.
I want to talk about Haymarket history because we're 10 years running with Haymarket. But Jay and Sam specifically, since you guys are here, 83 Honey Pale Ale. Let's start there. And I guess starting with the fact that diversity really doesn't exist or isn't that prominent in craft brewing. And Pete, I'll let you kind of take the ball from there, and also Jay and Sam chime in too.
Yeah, I'd like Jay or Sam to start with their interest in why they approached us and how the project came together, and obviously it's meaning a whole lot more today than it did even a month ago. So
yeah. Very, very true. Well, when this project was brought to me by a mutual friend of both myself and Haymarket, the plan was to basically shine a spotlight on the lack of diversity, both in craft beer and in the service industry in Chicago, as there are only 9 African-American liquor licensees that are current in the city of Chicago. So that was a big tipping point for the person that introduced me to the Haymarket team. Now, mind you, I was familiar with the Haymarket team from my days bartending at Nisei Lounge and serving those guys their own beers and whatnot. But what we wanted to do was basically have a celebration of craft beer, but also highlight the inconsistencies and the lack of inclusion in both the service industry and craft beer. It's so hard for minorities and women to get into this game. This game is predominantly white male driven. And we really wanted to shine a light on that and try to send a message that, we're trying to include more people.
So who approached who first? Was it you two guys approaching Haymarket, or was it Haymarket saying, hey,
a mutual friend,
why'd you guys mess around at our place?
A mutual friend who runs the Chicago Bar's Twitter feed, he approached me and basically said that Haymarket wanted to put this project together. And while we're having that conversation at my other job, I'm literally like, I need to get in contact with Brother Sam, which is how he became involved in it. So
you guys are obviously huge beer fans. You guys know your way in and around beer. Had you had aspirations before this? Did you think, okay, we're going to find a way to make this happen? Or was it just kind of perfect storm? Everything kind of came together all at once and you had a way to just kind of manifest your interest?
I myself, this is what I got into it to do. I never aspired to be a bartender. I got into it to be involved in the making of craft beer.
Got it.
Luckily, I met Sam, and Sam had already had his foot in the door, which is why I wanted to bring him in on this as well. and I'll give it to Sam from there.
Yeah, I had basically was brewing at a small place. So I had a small opportunity, a great opportunity. But what Haymarket gave me was an opportunity to create a beer of our own, not just follow someone's directions, but come in, write a recipe, tell what ingredients we thought we wanted. And Mike and Frank and Eric, they gave us an opportunity to like we had discussed before. I was working on a Chevy Cobalt, and Pete gave us the opportunity to brew on a Corvette.
So talk a little bit about the beer you created. Talk about 83 Honey Pale Ale. This was your vision. Tell me about the flavor. Tell me about the goal going into it.
And where the honey came from as well. We got to cover that.
All right. Well, what we wanted to do is we wanted to send a message of inclusion. So we wanted to make something approachable for the beer novice, but something that, those well-versed in beer could grab onto as well. So when we first discussed it, Sam approached me and he was like, we should do a honey ale. There are no honey ales out right now. And of course, we approached Haymarket with the honey ale idea, and it just took off from there. So in making that honey ale, which is 5.3 ABV, like I said, very easy drinking, definitely has a lot of the floral notes that comes from the honey without being overly sweet. Speaking directly to the honey, we were able to partner with a social initiative out in the North Lawndale neighborhood on the west side of Chicago called Sweet Beginnings through their Be Love Honey label. And what Sweet Beginnings does is it helps to transition those who have been recently released from incarceration and get them back assimilated into the workforce, not just into society, the workforce as well. So that in and of itself was something that, again, preaching that message of inclusion. So that was a big deal for us.
I love that. I love that you're leaning on the community to help build this beer. That's so cool. So now that this beer is out, what's the next beer you're going to do?
Well, I think the first step is to get open, which is slowly happening. So we have a place for you to come enjoy the beer. And then we very much want to do a second round. I think before we have details on that, we want to enjoy this collaboration. And we've talked about, I believe Sam and Mike talked about possibly doing an event here sooner than later, where the sales of the beer can go to a charity of their choice, and just try and do something powerful with the beer. Like I said, we wanted to do this a month ago, but now it is even more important and much more important that we all get together and do something positive with our collaboration.
So knowing that the craft beer industry still lacks inclusion and diversity is still an issue, it seems to me that this is an industry that's everyone's kind of part of the same community, but still independent islands operating. How do you coalesce all these brewers to be more focused and mindful and inclusive moving forward? How do you lead that charge, or how do you spark that change?
Well, personally, I believe you got to put good product in their hands. Nobody wants to hear you got to say if you're not making good product. So that's the first step.
Fair.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. The next part is getting the community to understand that it's possible, to kind of show a way forward. And it's little steps combined that will make a bigger impact. So, as Pete was alluding to, we had initially tried to make this release of the Harold's 83 Honey Ale be in conjunction with a panel discussion on diversity in craft beer. And we wanted to host that in our back bar here at 737 West Randolph. And then the COVID shutdown hit and we couldn't do that. So we pivoted as quickly as possible and we did it virtually, and we got a great response as far as attendance is concerned, and I thought it went really well. But it was just a conversation, right? And that was a good first step. But really, truly, what the nature of this project is how do we take the conversation, how do we take a project like this and make it actionable? How do we affect change? So if by starting a conversation, if by brewing a beer, we can show that it takes these little steps to get to the next bigger step, then there we go. And it might take time, but these are the first steps.
So, okay, Jay and Sam, you tried to, when the beer was done, came out of the tank, was ready to go. What do you think when you had your first sip? Was that a cool feeling?
It felt like a dream. It felt like a dream come true.
That's awesome.
But
you had to wait, right? You had to wait
until
it's ready.
The honey came through so good.
I got to say that I had no doubts in the quality and the recipe and the finished product, but I was still pleasantly surprised at how delicious it was when I got that first sip. And when we did the first Zoom call with the release, I think I brought a growler over to Michigan. I was sitting on my couch. I think I drank the whole growler. I don't think I recall the end of the Zoom call, but
fun night.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, now we'll get back to Jay and Sam, or Jay and Sam chime in as needed. I want to put Haymarket in perspective, because as we're talking about inclusion and diversity in this week, when the only thing really we should be talking about is Black Lives Matter, let's talk about the birth of Haymarket. Your beer's name stems from a historic moment in Chicago history. You're at a historic location in Chicago, the site of the Haymarket Affair of 1886. It's a heavy thing to build a beer brand on.
It is, and what we built the beer brand on, the historical events of 1886 and what was going on at that time, though vastly different of what is occurring now, still the same movement that needed to occur, and a very powerful movement at the time. And we really built this brand about inclusion and the working person. We wanted everyone to be able to come to our tap room and our brewery, no matter how they looked or how they're dressed or what they believe in, and enjoy a pint. And that's what we built our business on. And I think that now it's more important than ever to understand that if we can't all enjoy a pint anywhere together and get along and all bring each other up to a higher level and a higher standard of living, and I can get into a lot of other political things, but then you know, we have a lot of work to do in that regard, and that is what the Haymarket brand was built on. And we are, though we've been a tad quiet in the beginning of what's been occurring in the last few weeks, because we are collecting our own thoughts, and we're all dealing with it in our own way, and we also want to be able to relay a message of how we feel about everything that's occurring in a positive and a professional and a serious manner. But it is a very similar time than 1886, and it's unfortunate that we're so many years into this country and we're still seeing the disparity and the inequality that's occurring.
So you launched Haymarket in 2010?
That's correct. Christmas Eve, because everyone wants to go out to bars on Christmas Eve.
Perfect time, yeah.
Perfect night, yeah.
So that neighborhood's changed a little bit since you opened.
Yeah, I mean, historically, that neighborhood was actually pretty run down. The term Skid Row actually was developed to describe Halstead Street, right down the street from us. The back of the yards was over there, where all the cattle smelled great, and then where our row is, was where a lot of the goods and services of the time came in, whether it was shoes or vegetables or whatever. So that neighborhood meant a lot to the whole city, for positive and negative reasons. And historically, just that's where, the workers and the people that wanted equal rights, better pay, shorter hours, et cetera, in the working environment, would gather, and they would talk and say their views and try and get their message across. And it was the Haymarket Square was where everyone would go. And even on the May 4th, 1886, I think there was thousands of people gathered around the speakers, listening and coming together as a community to try and make things better.
So as the place evolved, I got to say, I've been there a bunch of times. The food there is awesome. You guys take care to produce awesome food there. I'd come back just for the tater tots.
Well, we've always since we first sat down with a bar napkin and came up with our concept of what Haymarket Pub and Brewery was going to be. It was to take the food quality and the beer quality and the level of service and customer interaction all to the same high level. And I think we've been able to do that since day one. And if you don't like beer, you're going to have a great meal. If you're not there for the food, you're going to have a great beer. And either way, the staff is just, we really focus on friendly, fun environment. And when we first hired, we didn't care what your resume said. We just wanted to talk to you and see how fun and interactive and happy of a person you were, and that's how we hired you. So we didn't look at anyone's experience. We were like, oh, yeah, you've been a bar manager 15 years, whatever. You seem like you're kind of a jerk. Next.
Because you can teach the rest.
Right.
If you're not a good person or a congenial, friendly person, it's not going to work. It's the same thing I tell people about radio. You don't need to have a complicated audio engineering background or long radio history. Can you carry a conversation? Are you interesting? Great. You can learn the other stuff later. It's kind of like the service industry, broadcasting. So what's interesting to me, Jay and Sam found the only type of beer that's not currently on your menu. As I look at what Haymarket offers, the variety you offer. Every time I walk in there, I visit my friend Mike. He's like, oh, check this out. You should try this. It's almost overwhelming, the varieties of beer you have there. Is Speaker's Wagon kind of a go-to for summer?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think our main summer beer is our Blood Orange Blonde, which we've been blowing through. We're out of it here again at the tap room. But I wouldn't hold back on getting a growler of the honey ale in the summer, especially for a campfire or a cookout. If you got your grill going, because it is flavorful. It's not a heavy beer. But our most popular everyday beers will be the Speaker's Wagon Pils. The Blood Orange has become the summer favorite. And then we've got a couple of year-round now cans we've been doing. The one in Mike's hand, Chicago Tavern beer, which is a fancy old style, is how I like to say it. I'm probably going to get a cease and desist on that one, which I would frame and put on my wall.
Absolutely.
And then our Hazy Lazy IPA, which is not hazy. That's why we call it lazy, because we're making fun of all the hazy beers. And those have been going really well. So we do have a good variety, a good lineup of summery beers. But I don't know if James, have you had the honey ale? Have you been able to get a growler?
I have not. I need to come to the West Loop.
Shame.
I know.
Shame.
Well, the past couple months have been a little challenging. I got to be honest with you. I will make it over there. I do want to try it. I want to support for sure. Would you say that My First Rodeo is not the beer to take to a campfire or to start a campfire with?
You might be able to start a campfire with it. What's Mike? Which is the base style on that one? That's one of Eric's beers. Is that the quad? Yeah, the quad. Yeah, that's a big one. Just with the whole shutdown and everything too, it's been tough because a lot of the beers we normally would have on tap, we haven't been able to either produce or get on tap because we have so much of the beer from the winter that didn't get consumed as normal. Right. So there's there's a lot of levels and a lot of layers to this this close down and what it's done to everything from everyone's employment all the way to all of our ingredients, all of our tanks full of beer and our brewing schedule and what what we're going to focus on. I mean, we I don't even know the number, Mike, but we canceled like 3 or 4 different releases for this year because there's no place to sell it, and there's no shelf space, and there's no place to drink it. Places are opening up, but they're opening up slowly, and so we don't want to make full tanks of summer fruity fun beers, and then there's nowhere to send it. So.
Yeah, I'd say even too with the Harold's 83 Honey Ale, where our original intention was to get a portion of this batch brewed here in the Chicago Brew Pub out to Black-owned bars and out into the neighborhoods to raise more awareness about the project itself. And with the shutdown, we weren't able to do that. So we've got a bit of beer to share with everybody, and we're getting open to get it out.
It seems like Porter's having a moment. Talk to me about what you guys have.
I just, hopefully those motorcycles aren't too loud. I disagree that Porter's having a moment. I think Porter's always had a moment. I think it's one of those beer styles that has been around for a long time, and maybe you don't see it on tap all the time, but it's a popular craft beer style. And but we do have a Baltic Porter that we've come out with that is about as strong as the quad over here. That's been wildly popular. But I think the biggest new, I hate to say new, is really lagers. I mean, there's been a lager breweries popping up. There's been a lot of people that have always made a lager. I've made a Pilsner for over 20 years. I love my Pilsner. We'd already talked about it. But if you even come into our tap room right now, you're going to see Baltic Porter, which is a lager, Doppelbock lager, Maibach lager, Pilsner lager, Tavern Beer, which is a Dortmunder lager, Try Not to Suck, which is a Helles lager, and then Speaker's Wagon. So we've got I don't even know how many that was, Mike. Was that 7? I lost count. And the general consumer might not even know the difference between an ale and a lager, but they're drawn to these lagers just because of the flavor profiles and the complexity, but also the crispness and they're super traditional, very old styles that still ring true today. So I don't know where I was going with that, but James, it's your call.
So you asked if I'd had the Honey Pale Ale, and I said I hadn't because it's been a challenging couple months just to leave the house. Have you had regulars who've been able to come by and support you through this? I mean, what have the past couple months been like for you guys?
Yeah, it's been very interesting for sure, as far as the flow that we were used to versus the new flow for the interim period. It's been pretty cool to reconnect with regulars in the neighborhood that we otherwise would have only had a hello across the bar. We take the extra few minutes to catch up and see how everybody is doing and get to know each other a little bit longer without lingering too long for social distancing practices. But I gotta say, it's been really fun to watch what people gravitate towards in this period of time, because you're a little bit more focused on what they're ordering. And Harold's 83 has been top 3 ever since it came on tap.
And I don't want to lose the script on that. Harold's 83 Honey Pale Ale, part of this diversity initiative so needed in this industry. No better time than the present to be talking about this. Black Lives Matter. Can't say that enough right now. So Jay and Sam, for people who haven't tried this, if you want to, here's your chance to pitch them on what makes your beer awesome.
Talk to him, Sam.
Oh, Harold's 83 Honey Ale. It's a Chicago flavor on your tongue. It's the sweet to the salty. It's the taste of it's a true pub beer. So it's not a guzzler. So it's made to be appreciated with food. It's appreciated to be made with good pub food, to sit down and talk about, have conversations about Cubs or Sox, politics, whatever. Just sit down and have a conversation with somebody next to you and say, hey, this is a craft beer. And that's how the conversation starts. So that's what Harold's 83 is. It's the sweet to the salty.
So they're good with tater tots, is what you're telling me.
Them sweet potato tater tots, fat, bro.
There it is. All right. So Harold's 83 is available now. Get it, try it, support these guys, support this initiative. Haymarket Brewing, 737 West Randolph, right just west of the expressway, right there, Randolph and Halstead. I love this place. I love the beer. I love the food. Keep supporting them. I want to thank all of you for your time on a Friday night. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks
guys.
for having me.
Thank you.
And I'm going to stop the Facebook. Before I stop the Facebook Live, I do want to thank a couple people for watching. Daryl, Brady, Mike, Lauren, Stephanie, Gil, Jeff, Dennis, Christy, Mike, Shanzi, Jeff, David, Jane, Gina, Scott, Jeff, Giorgio, Tom, Natalie, Michael. A lot of people checking in tonight. Much appreciated. So I'm going to stop the Facebook Live.